Long ago, when kingdoms rose high and stretched far, people lived simple lives. Yet kings, they lived in palaces filled with gold and jewels. Among those empires was one so vast, so beautiful, that travelers would say, "There is no kingdom like this one." The fields were green, rivers sparkled in the sun, birds sang in the skies, markets were alive with laughter, voices and the scent of spices, and at the center of it all was the king. A man powerful, wealthy, and proud, he was feared by his enemies, obeyed by his people, and praised as the wisest ruler of his age. His palace was proof of his glory. Towers touched the clouds, walls shone with gems, marble floors glistened, and gardens bloomed with flowers whose fragrance carried far into the wind. But inside, the king was restless. At night, he stood on his balcony and asked himself, "They call me strong. They call me rich. But do they truly believe I am wise?" One morning, unable to hold back, the king entered his court and raised his hand for silence. In a deep, commanding voice, he declared, "Bring me the most precious thing in the world. Whoever succeeds will be rewarded with anything they desire. Gold, land, treasures beyond measure." The hall buzzed with excitement. The news spread like fire across the kingdom. Farmers, hunters, traders, and scholars all set out on their quests. Some climbed mountains to find rare herbs. Others dived into oceans for pearls. Hunters chased after unseen creatures. Merchants sailed far-off lands for jewels. Weeks passed, and one by one they came before the king. A man brought diamonds that blinded the eyes. Another presented a bird whose feathers held every color of the rainbow. Another showed a plant said to cure all diseases. The court cheered. The king smiled politely, but still, his eyes did not shine. Then one day a simple man entered. His clothes were plain. His hands bore the marks of labor. The courtiers laughed. What could such a man possibly bring? The man walked forward calmly. He placed a small pouch at the king's feet. When it was opened, inside lay a tongue. The hall erupted in laughter. Ministers shouted in anger. The king's face darkened. "What foolishness is this? A tongue? The most precious thing?" The man bowed and said quietly, "Your Majesty, the tongue is what raises a man to honor. It builds friendships. It comforts hearts. It brings peace between enemies. Without it, love could never be spoken, wisdom never shared, and feelings never expressed. A single kind word can outlast treasures and shine brighter than jewels." The court fell silent. For the first time, the king felt the weight of another man's words. But his pride resisted. He leaned forward and said, "Very well. Then return in a few days and bring me the worst thing in the world." Days passed. The kingdom whispered in curiosity. Would he bring poison? A deadly weapon? A snake? Some curse or charm? Finally, the man returned. Again, he placed a pouch at the king's feet. Inside lay another tongue. The court erupted once more. Some demanded punishment. The king thundered, "Do you dare mock me again?" The man bowed deeply and replied, "Your Majesty, the tongue is not only the best, it is also the worst. It can unite, but it can divide. It can create love, but it can spread hatred. It can lift a man to honor, or drag him into disgrace. Words wound deeper than any sword, and leave scars no blade can heal. Wars between kingdoms do not begin with weapons, but with words." The court froze in silence. Ministers lowered their eyes. Even the king felt his heart tremble. He remembered his own harsh words, the anger with which he had scolded his people, the bitterness he had spoken to his ministers, even the pain he had caused his own son. For the first time, pride melted into humility. From that day forward, the king changed. He decreed, in every school, children will be taught that the tongue is the greatest trust. Guard it well. In the marketplaces, criers shouted, "Good words are charity. Harsh words are poison. Guard your tongue." At first, people laughed, but slowly the kingdom changed. Where once there were quarrels, there was kindness. Where homes were filled with bitterness, there was now respect and love. Even the king himself was transformed. He spoke gently to his people. He treated his ministers with honor. He spoke to his son with love. No longer was he seen only as a powerful ruler. He was now known as a wise man. One day the king met the same humble man again. With tears in his eyes, the king said, You have given me a lesson that no book, no conquest, no treasure could ever teach. Truly, the tongue is both the greatest blessing and the greatest curse. The man smiled and replied, "True wisdom, your majesty, is to master one's tongue. For when words are guarded, kingdoms flourish, and hearts remain whole." And so, the lesson of the tongue passed from generation to generation. The kingdom became famous not just for its power and wealth, but for the gentleness of its people. Travelers who visited would say, "These people speak with kindness," and that is their greatest treasure. The story teaches us, the tongue is both a treasure and a weapon. Use it wisely, and it will build worlds. Misuse it, and it will destroy them.